Adrian and I are traveling, and we wanted to make sure everyone has a workout to do, and most people seem to have like 1, 10, or 15, or 20-pound dumbbell around the house. So this workout you're going to do either with body weight or all of that. So, as usual, we'll have you start with the joint prep. We'll have a link in the description, and then we're going to start our warm-up. So, assuming we've done our joint prep, we're going to move on to half kneeling hip rotations. So, half kneeling, and then hip rotations. So, first of all, half kneeling position, you can have your toes curled under like that, or pressing into the ground, wherever you feel like stable. So from there, you're going to think about kind of pulling this hip back as you slide this hip forward, but you're staying in that plane. So it's like you only have this much space to take up width-wise, and you're going to try and glide along that. So what we're doing here is we're flossing your femur in your hip socket and allowing like all of your lateral glute muscles to kind of get like pushed and pulled, because you're probably doing something relating to lunges later. Get it? Just kidding, we're doing a lunging thing later. So that's what we're doing this for. We'll have you do like 6 to 10 shifting things. So now I'm going to show you 6 to 10 shifts, wiggles, whatever you want to call them. Now I'm going to show you from the front view. This foot plants into the ground. I can still see my right big toe on the inside of my knee, right? So you want to make sure you're not too far in. Really push that whole foot into the ground so you feel this side's glute kind of turn on. That back foot, whatever position you have it in, super anchored, butt tucked under, right? So super stable. From there, slide the front leg forward and the back leg back. Woo. And notice the differences between sides. So this is so much harder for me than the other side, so I would start my lunging movement later in this stance. So 6 to 10 each side there. The next thing you're going to do is close stance descent push-ups. So close stance, or like close position, just means here versus a normal push-up. So we're doing it to warm up your triceps for later. So you're going to get down, think about if your normal push-up position, your thumbs are like pointing towards your armpit. If you're on the ground, you want your thumbs pointing towards your armpit, but thumbs kind of like right in your armpits, okay? And then your elbows are going to squeeze into your sides. You're going to kick your heels back, so you're in a high plank position, keeping your biceps facing forward, lower down, as slow as you can. And if you did the other body weight workout that we just released, you'll notice that descent push-ups are kind of a theme, right? So if you've done them before in a normal position, the only difference is these are going to be loading your triceps a lot more, like I said earlier. So really focus on pushing into all of your fingers, keeping those elbows nice and tight, and if you notice that they're flaring out, that's the bottom of your descent push-up, even if it's not the full ground. So if you start to notice here, your elbows are wanting to come out, that's where you put your knees down and then come up. So main thing, lower as slow as you possibly can, because you're only doing 3 to 5. And then finally, twisty sumo breathing to open up those hips and kind of stretch through your back fascial lines. So feet are going to be planted out wide. Think about tucking your hips under. You're going to slide your hands down on your quads till they're about midway. And I like thinking about like pushing my ribs away from my hips so you're up super tall. Take a big breath in here. You're going to exhale, turn one shoulder in, so my left shoulder's coming in. My left hand's kind of pushing open both my hips. A few back cracks in there if always feel good. And then inhale to center, exhale, twist. So, side view, inhale to center, exhale to twist. My hips are staying open. I'm not twisting through my bones. I'm kind of keeping my soft tissues in my stomach involved, aka your abs and guts. And inhale, exhale. So, on these, we're going to have you do 6 to 10 each side. What I was just demonstrating, I was taking a couple breaths in each position because that's what my body needs to do right now. If you don't want to do that, you want to breathe every single time, get a little bit more warmth going on, that's totally fine too. So 6 to 10 on the hip shift rotations, up to 3 to 5 on the descent push-ups, and then 6 to 10 on the twisty sumo breathing. Do that for like 1 to 2 rounds, see how you feel, and then move on to the strength part, which is next. All right, peeps, thanks for doing your joint prep before you start all of this, and then for doing the warm-up, because those things are going to help prepare you for what we're doing next in the strength portion. So that half kneeling hip thing is because we are doing lunging dumbbell rows. So we have that one dumbbell that we've always had. We never found a partner for it. That's okay, because it still has value by itself, right? So this is your one dumbbell workout. Lunging dumbbell rows, lunge position. So take a big step forward. This one, you're going to suck your belly button up and in. And then as you lean over, you're pulling this femur kind of back into hip socket. So my right heel's reaching really far back, my left foot's pushing into the ground, my right hip's kind of pushing forward, my left hip's kind of pulling back. So everything is meeting in my center line to keep me stable, right? Shoulders are nice and parallel to the ground. I'm going to start the movement by shrugging my shoulder blade back towards the center and then following through by pulling my hand up to my hip. And then inhale to lower, exhale to pull back. So I like having my other hand on my stomach because it helps me keep in mind like my lower belly muscles, right? And making sure that my hips stay even, because you want to make sure that you're not twisting through the hips. That's totally a thing, it's just not this thing today. So lower body stays super stable, because you're your own bench today, right? So belly button up and in, push your left heel back, right heel into the ground, and then keeping everything in line with what feels right for you. Shrug your shoulder back, pull in line with your hip, and then let it back down. So part of the challenge of this is that anti-rotation part, right? So rotational rows, great move, just not what you're doing today. So do 10 to 15 of those, depending on your weight. If that's way too many, if you have like a 25-pound dumbbell and you could do 5 rows, do 5. But I'm using a 15, and that's what would be good for me, right? Next thing we're gonna have you do, dumbbell skull crushers. So you're gonna lay on the ground, and you're gonna hold the dumbbell by the ends. If you don't feel safe doing this, I'll show you something after. But if you can, hold it by the ends. You're going to lay on your back. I prefer to have feet on the ground versus here because this kind of puts your hips in a position that it's not always easy to engage your abs, and that's kind of important. So feet on the ground, suck your belly button up and in. Arms are going to be up, and you're going to kind of squeeze your elbows towards each other. And then, here's the skull crusher part. Keeping your elbows nice and tight, slowly lower the dumbbell down towards your forehead. Please don't drop it. And then exhale, back up. So elbows stay in place, hands come down towards the forehead. We're lengthening our triceps there, and then breathing out as we flex our triceps back up. So from this view, really pay attention to my elbows, right? So from here, they stay nice and tight. They go down, my elbows are squeezing, I feel the backs of my arms stretching, and then shortening as I go back up. So if this grip is not going to work for you, you can always do a little French grip. So you basically make a triangle with your hands, and the dumbbell stem goes in that triangle. So from there, it's just going to be a shorter range of motion, so I'll show you from here. Hands are nice and sturdy on there, elbows still squeeze in. The grip is going to be a little bit different, so your arms aren't going to stay as parallel, but you are still going to be able to get that tricep extension, right? So inhale in, bring it above your head, and then bring it back up. So your angle is going to be a little different versus coming straight down over your face. Your arms are going to be a little raised above neutral, and then going up from there. So the biggest difference here is if you're doing this, it's going to work the shortcut of your bicep. As you extend, it's going to include more of the long head of the bicep. So it's not a bad thing. They're just going to be slightly different in how you feel them, but do what's the safest for you and how you feel good holding it. So up to 10 to 15 of those. Then this next one, the weight is honestly optional, but because we're doing the one dumbbell workout, dumbbell rack trunk rotation. So the rack position just means hold it close to your body and kind of make it part of your weight, right? So you want to be 15, 20, whatever pounds heavier. Hold your dumbbell, become one with it. Feet are going to be slightly wider than shoulder width apart, and you're going to think about sucking your belly button up and in. I know I say that a lot, but belly button up and in, and then kind of push your hips forward. So you're loading this whole frontal line, right? Like my quads are tight, so I also feel my quads stretching, which is fine. And in that front rack position, you're going to take a big breath in to be up as tall as you can here, and then exhale, twist to one side, inhale to the middle, exhale, twist to the other side. So you're trying to just maintain that position where you feel your abs and hips engaged. Inhale up tall, exhale, keep that height, but suck your belly button into your spine and twist over. Inhale to the center, exhale to the side. So super important, don't do these ones fast. If you don't want to do weight, you can have your hands on your shoulders and think about inhale, exhale. The main thing here is that your hips are staying nice and forward, supported, butt, glutes, abs, everything engaged, and you're kind of trying to stretch through your obliques. So you want to feel from diagonal hip up to opposite shoulder, right? So 10 to 15 of those, you're getting the theme, everything's 10 to 15. And then fast feet is your heart rate one, right? So normally we try and get something in there to help get your heart rate up because we're trying to get your heart stronger as well as your muscles. And this is a really good way that's not a mountain climber because those are overdone on workouts from home and stuff. And also they end up tightening your hip flexors. So we're just gonna do fast feet today, which means You're gonna get on your toes and kind of think about like bouncing around a little bit, feel kind of springy, and then everything should jiggle as you move your feet as fast as possible. So I can't talk while I'm doing it, but think about like, I always have volleyball hands, so like ready stance, but think about being light on your feet and just, I know it looks really spazzy, but I promise it's a thing. And if you do it the way that we have it programmed, you're gonna do 30 seconds the first time, 45 seconds the second set, and 60 seconds the third set. If you wanna do more, just keep adding 15 seconds. It is alarmingly challenging when you actually do those durations of time, right? So the first 10 seconds, not that hard. It gets harder and harder. So let's say you do 3 to 4 rounds of that whole strength set. See how you feel. Let us know if you have questions, and proud of you for doing it. Good luck with your dumbbell.